So, with a side plank position, I'm going to set my feet up away from me, elbow underneath the shoulder, and something to kind of cushion my elbow so that I'm not, my elbow isn't hurting by the end, okay? You can see from here, body's nice and long. First thing I want to focus on is my shoulder. I want to make sure that the elbow, in a way, I'm kind of dragging it down. So the intention is to kind of pull it towards my hip rather than push away. So really important in terms of setup that I don't set myself too far away from the elbow so that the force is pushing that way. Top of my shoulder is now kind of falling towards my ear, really cranking my shoulder, doesn't really suit it, doesn't really, can be quite sore, okay? So in order to engage it properly, I want to make sure that I'm squeezing my shoulder blade down, dragging the elbow almost this way. But as you can see, when I set up, it's isometric, so I'm not technically moving, but the intent is to pull it down this way, okay? From there then, hips drive up, core nice and tight. I'm really focusing on this right side, that gap between my rib cage and my hip. There's going to be a global contraction of my whole core, but I'm really emphasizing this right side, tightening it up as stiff as I can, imagining that I'm about to take a punch at any moment to that right side of my core. Now this is a self-induced level of tension, so I can drive my hips up and I can sit here all day if I just kind of rest almost in a way, but if I really try to squeeze as tight as I can, that 5 to 8 seconds is going to be really, really difficult. So that's what I want you to do. Get the most from the 5 to 8 seconds, pause, rest, relax, go into your next rep. So think of it as like the hardest you can brace and engage your core, really forceful inhales and exhales as you go through, okay? So there's a few faults that can kind of happen as you go through this movement. I just want to highlight a few of them. So when you're setting up, I've been through a few there with the elbow. You can also end up setting up too high, where you've driven your hips up kind of too excessively. You've almost crunched with the side of the core rather than being kind of that more optimal range. You can also set yourself too low. Maybe you don't have the strength to do this for the time being, and we can regress it. I'll show you now in a second. But you can drive it with the hips. They're essentially not in line. They're a little bit too low, and you're not going to get the most from it. Okay? So a few ways that we can regress this. We can essentially curl our heels towards our bum, set up onto the knees, still in a very similar position where I drive up, make sure that my bum is kind of squeezing, hips extended forward, and I'm tightening up that left side of my core again. Just making sure hips in line, not too high, not too low, everything engaged, tightening up as much as I can. So a good regression to go for if we're finding that very, very difficult. A few other faults I forgot to mention. Another one would be, basically my hips aren't fully extended, my hips are pushed back, my body is kind of caving forward, I'm not essentially straight. So what I should be thinking is bum squeeze, hips push forward, shoulders back, and body nice and long. Okay, I can be very caved over. Essentially if I was standing up, I'd be very hunched, but I want to think in the same way that I'd be standing up. My hips are pushed forward, bum is squeezed, core is tight, shoulders are back, chin retracted as I go through. Okay, that should be most things that you might come across, okay?